AFL footy tips time. Russell Barwick alongside Marc Dragicevic to pick the winners in the AFL this week, at least try to. A couple of upsets last week and a lot of the favourites starting to really flex their muscles. Now, normally Richmond v Collingwood on a Friday night, Dragger, would be a blockbuster. But this year we are lacking block and we're lacking buster.
Geez, there's no flair there, is there? These sides, they're
donuts.
1 and 2. They're 1 and 2. They're under pressure. That could make it a better contest. Look, the Tigers have to go back to how they played in the second half. It's simple. Damien Hardwick put Jack Riewoldt in the 50. He got 7 of his 8 possessions in the third quarter in the 50. He's damaging there. I think they're sacrificing 6 goals for him to maybe get 1 or 2 more from one person. It's just not working.
Collingwood are just in trouble across the board.
Well, they can't score.
They can't score, although when they played the Swans, they outswanned the Swans. And if they replicate that sort of open play, they're a chance. But they really need to run hard when they are in defence. Yeah,
and they do have the wood on Richmond, pardon the pun there. So it's going to be a really interesting contest. One in the midfield. I'm going to go the Tigers.
Okay, another big game is on Saturday with Carlton taking on Melbourne. When I say big, it is very important for both teams. May not be important for the rest of the competition because these two are at the bottom end of the table.
It's definitely more important for Carlton in my mind.
If they lose this, Mick is probably in all sorts.
He's in all sorts, I think. But Melbourne can't score goals. They can't win a clearance. So, look, Carlton has to win this game, and I think they will.
Last week they said that the over and under in the Melbourne GWS game was 180. That meant that GWS are going to score 150 because...
Absolutely. They can't kick more than 8 goals.
No, exactly. Port Adelaide, terrific so far. Bit of a stumble last week, late in the final part of that match against North. They take on the Lions at home. Yeah,
that'll be a comfortable victory for Port. The Lions, again, they can't find the football when they're going to be missing Rich this week, so that's going to hurt them.
Yeah.
Port are top 3 in the marks inside 50 and Merritt's out as well, so nothing bodes well there for the Lions.
I think the power might bounce back in a big way. GWS were really good last week in awful conditions. So too were the Bulldogs, knocking off your Tigers, so credit where credit's due, and they play in Canberra.
They play in Canberra, but the actual Bulldogs play well up there. They've won 6 out of their 8 games. GWS, I'm really liking the fact that they're a hard contested team. They're leading the league in the tackles. Their only deficiency is their disposal efficiency. So they have to pick that up. I think the Bulldogs will go up there and actually beat them.
You know what? I think you can take out the disposal with the weather last week, but they just play some smart football. And
they're hard at it.
Hunt and Mumford and Heath Shaw have just brought so much experience to that table.
Mumford's been outstanding. 51 hit-outs a game and 8 tackles for a ruckman.
Not to mention a few marks around the ground as well. Geelong take on the Eagles at Simmons.
Geelong will continue their run at the Fortress. Eagles will be without Lacroix, that'll hurt, and Maston. So, I think Geelong just a little bit too strong down there. You've got to remember, the Eagles have only beaten the Bulldogs, St Kilda and Melbourne.
Correct. Gold Coast Suns host the Hawks, who are just going enormously well.
You've got to pick the Hawks every week until they start showing signs of weakness, and they're not at the minute.
That first quarter last week against the Dockers, I mean, remember, it's a grand final replay. They put 6 or 8 goals on them.
Yeah, it's just sublime performance. So, Hawkies up there.
Sydney bounced back with a good win, 60-odd points against Adelaide. They take on North, who were good at the weekend, and that's at the SCG, a place where North have had reasonable success recently.
I think they've actually beaten the Kangaroos the last 7 times, so I'll have to go against you there. And I think they're going to make it 8. It's a contested footy ground. Swans are ranked up in the top 5 of the contested footy, but the Kangaroos are down at 17th. They're not going to get it. Swans for me.
Okay, maybe I read it, have not got a good record recently. There you go.
Yeah,
I read it wrong. St Kilda host Adelaide at Etihad.
Adelaide.
Why?
Because they've played 3 finals teams. Everyone's sort of just off them. I think St Kilda are a one-man show. They must double-team Riewoldt, who's been outstanding, mind you. Adelaide for mine, must come over here. They're a bit like Carlton. They have to win this game.
Okay, the Saints are going okay for mine. And Freo taking on Essendon in the West.
I'm tipping an upset. Essendon will go over there. They'll knock off Freo. Without Barlow and Fife last week, they were exposed in the midfield. And Essendon's midfield are number 1 in centre clearances. They're going to expose them as well with the uncontested footy on the outside. The run and spread. It's a big, wide open ground. Bombers for me.
Fantastic, the Bombers the other day, but it's hard to tip against the Dockers at home. Let's go through Draggers tips. Tigers, Carlton, Port Adelaide, all the home teams, and the Doggies in Canberra, Geelong. The Hawks, obviously, the Swans at the SCG, wrapping it up with Adelaide and Essendon in a bit of an upset against Freo.